IIM Amritsar organized its first IT and Analytics Conclave, Vyakriti', where industry experts enlightened aspiring students present at the conclave about the evolving trends and development in the domain of IT and analytics. Evolving to adapt digital transformation in the era of disruption was the theme of the discussion. We bring you the highlights.
The world, as we know, is changing rapidly by both natural and man-made forces, or a combination of the two. Our mandate at IIM Amritsar is to prepare hundreds of young minds to spearhead our progress during these uncertain times. It is my humble opinion that we cannot achieve this glorious purpose solely through classroom learning.
I think digital is a loaded word, and it means too many things for too many people. So I think let's start with first demystifying what really digital transformation is. Everybody has heard about Nokia, yeah, and in fact a lot of us have also used Nokia phones in our younger days, right? So I really want to start off with a quote by the CEO of Nokia, who said that, we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. It is going to be an interesting conversation around, what digital transformation means. And I'd like to start off with Ritvik and invite him to actually tell us a little bit about what digital transformation is for the students and get familiar with this whole term.
So digital transformation is a very critical subject as well as a cliched one. Because if you look up the numbers, I think after Afghanistan, the next one would be digital transformation. But being jocular doesn't take away from the import of it. So if you see, and this is not a term which is very new. In fact, I have been dabbling with this for almost 6-7 years now, before it became a mainstream activity. And I remember way back in 2014-15, I was attending a symposium of Gartner. And there they were promoting the event with the theme of digital. And we were all very interested in trying to understand, because right from the time joined the industry, it was all about zeros and ones, and which were pretty digital right from the start. So what was so digital about digital? So, and I distinctly remember, so the way they display it, and the whole, without wasting time, I would say that the control shifted from the provider to the consumer. I think this is something which digital brought in its wake. That is the biggest thing which happened. The second thing what happened is it did a lot of democratization.
Very nice, Ritvik. I think it's you put it very beautifully, and I think I can capture 4 or 5 points. I think you framed it very beautifully. The customer, this whole digital transformation has actually put the customer at the center of everything. And it is actually forcing all organizations to think, outside in. And it's also helping us evolve a lot of business models. So beautiful. Bhaskar, you want to actually chip in?
If you basically look at the word, digital transformation, it has two separate words. One is digital and another is transformation. I feel, my experience for last 6-7 years, working on digital transformation, that digital is easy, transformation is very difficult. Okay. And, there is always, a collaboration between, man and machine, whenever we talk about digital transformation. So the machine will basically do all repetitive and rule-based kind of a work. Man or a human being will basically add value to it. And the optimum combination of, man and machine will basically make it successful in the longer run.
Thanks, Bhaskar. And I like the way you put it, the digital is the simple part, the complex part is transformation. And thanks to actually COVID, they say that, COVID actually could do what not many CIOs and COOs of companies could actually bring in. And I invite Ruchi to talk about, a little bit about, or Ruchi or Ritvik, chime in about how COVID has accelerated the digital transformation in some of the organizations. What do you see around? Can you just do it?
Digital transformation is always linked to a business goal, right? any successful digital transformation that's happened has to drive a certain set of goals. So I think that's the ultimate destination that all organizations keep in mind, and organizations who've been able to track that during their digital transformation journey have been extremely successful. So I'd like to just call that out, that the outcome, is across different pillars, be it customer, be it consumer, be it your own workforce, right? Workforce enablement is a very big area of digital transformation. So just for the benefit of the students, these are the 3-4 areas that fall under digital transformation.
Completely agree with you. Very good point. We have Mehul, who leads from Wells Fargo, is lead in banking. Mehul, can you talk us a little bit about, what kind of transformation you have personally seen happening in banking, insurance industries?
Okay, so when you talk of, digital transformation from a banking standpoint, it's a very, unique area to be in. So if you think about digital transformation, most of the panelists have given their views on what that would mean. But for banks, it's been a mix, right? Because as more and more customers get to sense what an amazing UI UX experience feels like, or what sort of product are available to them in a moment. So from a bank's perspective, if you think about it, bank's job is to lend money, right? So from that perspective, how do I gather more deposits and how do I lend more money and do that exercise so easily that people continue to engage with me over a period of time, right? So that's the essence of digital transformation from a banking standpoint. Having said that, it is very tough because large part of banks, when you think about it from an ecosystem perspective, they have to fight legacy issues. That ideally would mean a lot of data stored in different systems across the bank, and they don't talk to each other. On the second side of it, you will have leaders with different objectives and goals on what they would like to achieve from a digital transformation. So getting that organizational strategy in place. The second part of it is when you have intent there, how do you bring some sort of clarity around what's doable versus what's not, and most importantly, budget. So when you get all of these things together and then you create a digital roadmap, that's where you start creating digital transformation. So just an example, erstwhile, when you would go to open an account, the entire account opening process for a simple savings account was 7 to 10 days, right? Right now, it is done in 5 minutes. Everything is digital, online. Everybody can just log in there, do the eKYC, and get good to go, right? So this is the pace at which digital banking is improving.
No, perfect. I think very valid points, Mehul. Thanks for bringing that angle. And I'd like to invite Bhaskar and Sundar. Bhaskar, starting off with you, tell us a little bit about, is that for real or is that a passing fad? What are your views?
If you basically look at, what's happening around us, I think we are all been using consciously or subconsciously a lot of digital products. And, we have become a slave of, digital, the way, we have been using digital. It's very common, and it's basically has become a habit of ourselves. When it is driven, by customers, when, companies will definitely drive it more passionately. And I feel that it is here to stay for a very long time. Imagine, I'll basically give some examples. We have never thought that the world's biggest, hotel chain will not basically own a single hotel, Airbnb. The biggest, fleet of cars company, Uber doesn't have a single car. It's all, it's basically working because of digital, and it's been working very well because it's been driven and adopted by the customers, and, that model is working. I mean, if you talk about e-commerce, I think, I was reading somewhere around 93% of people who has an internet connection has used e-commerce in the last 18 months during the COVID. So that means, people are getting hooked to, digital technologies, and this is definitely, will be here to stay. And I don't feel a reason for it not to stay, because it has been driven by the customers. We have enough of information which is available, and we are living, fortunately, we are living in an era where information is freely available. we have large, amount of data. We don't have right people to basically make a meaningful insight of the data.
Beautiful thoughts, Bhaskar. Very nice, very nice. Sundar, what do you think? Digital transformation is here to stay?
Yeah, when you think about digital transformation, right? Generally, when you read about this or when you hear, we hear a lot of buzzwords around Netflix or Amazon's of the world, right? That's what we hear about. But being part of the consulting industry and I've looked at several different customers, different industry verticals, it's not limited to just Fortune 1000 companies or like digitally born companies. What is happening, my observation is, a lot of small and medium enterprises are also trying to transform digitally in their own way, right? Either it could be like what Bhaskar was saying, right, in terms of going after new revenues of business, or purely like what Ritik is saying, that either they have to kind of do it, otherwise they will perish, right? I can think of like two examples that I can quote here. One is with logistics industry in US, it's a trucking industry. It's highly fragmented. There are a lot of players over there. So there is a logistics broker who connects the shipper with the trucking companies. Think about this as like a Uber or a Ola app that you use, right? Now, Uber has been trying to disrupt this space as well by introducing a technology platform, right? What they call as a Uber for freight. Now, one of the clients that I'm working with, it's a smaller company, traditional broker, right? So they were actually forced to embark on a digital journey, right? To build like a similar kind of a technology platform, right? To counter this particular threat from Uber, right? The other example I could think about in US, there is a retailer who primarily caters to agricultural products as well as the livestock. So as you can imagine, the consumers of this particular retailer are essentially the farmers. And these stores are in the rural parts of the US, right? And generally the farmers have to drive like 15-20 miles, right, to get to the store, to understand what is the inventory that is out there in the stores and all that. For the last 2 years or so, they have been embarking on an omni-channel experience where they have given options to their consumers to buy online and pick up in store or curbside pickup, right? And one interesting fact is, although if you look at the demographics of these consumers, they're not that tech savvy, but interestingly, the revenues from these online channels have gone 4x, right? And they have been trying to double down further on this investment. So definitely, I see this happening across different levels, not necessarily limited to the larger firms or digitally born companies.
Some of you follow Coach Simon Sinek. There's a nice video, TED video where he talks about start with why, right? And it's very imperative as students, don't get too excited about data science, technology, tools, analytics. Always link that back to what your business is trying to achieve.
Digitization needs domain experts plus digital experts. Not only digital experts. So, if we feel that, if I learn some programming languages and if I basically learn some, big data techniques, I, become a digitization expert, that's a myth. Okay, so understanding a domain is very, very important.
Very nice. Some of us can talk a little bit about what are the skills that are actually required as we kind of scale up?
I want to spend some time on the kind of skills for the benefit of the the students community sitting here today. I think the number one skill, and like I said, digital is as much about people as it's about technology. The number one skill, that organizations are looking at is around data analytics. It's a core function in almost all organizations. It facilitates decision making, data driven decision making. And I would urge the student community to look at building competencies or data science, predictive analytics, descriptive analytics, the end-to-end life cycle of data. So learn technologies, learn methodologies to make sure that you're fully empowered to mine information for the organization. And there are a lot of new, in the digital umbrella, there are a lot of new technologies like predictive modeling, looking at conversational analytics, Google Analytics, looking at video analytics. There's so much out there, and the beauty of skill is that you are able to converge all of this into a story. The second skill I think I'll want to call out here is about building skills around hyper automation or intelligent automation, which means that the organization ask is a lot around building end-to-end hybrid model of human and bots working together, right? So get yourself fully armed on robotic process automation in a big way, OCR, which is your optical character recognition in a very big way, speech recognition, sentiment analytics. All of these are skills that are highly in big demand in the industry, and that will move the needle on the business metrics. The third bit of skill, which is non-technical, which a lot of organizations are looking at, is creative thinking, which means the elements of design thinking are extremely important, in the digital transformation. And the last and not the least, I think a lot of organizations succeed because the change management and project management aspect is being extremely strong around digital transformation. So any PMO programs, PMP programs, change management programs will be highly beneficial for the students to make this is a successful activity.
And beautiful thoughts, Ruchi, again, compliment to that. Ritvik or Bhaskar, you want to, top up on Ruchi's thoughts?
I can definitely. I think Ruchi covered it very well. But, let me tell that, digitization needs domain experts plus digital experts, not only digital experts. So, if we feel that, if I learn some programming languages and if I basically learn some, big data techniques, I, become a digitization expert, that's a myth. Okay, so understanding a domain is very, very important.
Completely agree. Ritvik?
Yeah, I think three of you captured it very well about the skills that are required. But I would just like to have a word of caution here, because that's something which I have been seeing over the last 30 years. This is about to complete my 30th year in this industry. And what I've seen is basically your USP as a person with a skill diminishes over time. The second thing which Ruchi talked about a bit about the design thinking, I think one aspect which has to come in is the differentiation between the project approach to solution and product development and moving over to the product model. So today we no longer talk about a large waterfall model. Okay, we talk about various versions of applications or solutions. So understanding product design philosophy and applying design thinking to it will be very crucial.
Very nice. Thank you. Very nice, Ritvik. I think you put it very, very beautifully. Inviting probably Mehul or Sundar, you want to chime in around digital adoption.
Sure. Jitendra, I can take a stab at that, right? Thank you for that. See, digital is a reality, it's going to stay and just going to improve, right? And as we look at 2 years down the line, what more can happen from a digital standpoint? It can be more cloud adoption, it can be more IoT, it can be a lot more about data privacy, because everybody's talking digital. Now, what happens is as more and more data starts getting digital, it's also about privacy issues. How are you going to store your data? Do we have that understanding of how we're going to manage that? So, a lot of hype, but a lot of reality also that needs to be mindful. People have to be mindful of as they go through. So these are 3-4 points which I think Jitendra is going to play a crucial role, and the changes or the trends we are seeing in the environment today.
So there are a couple of aspects, as I think, right, when it comes to adoption. One is like a top-down, right, where you definitely need to have like a digital champion within the organization, right, who knows in and out, right, what works, what doesn't work, and have that ability to kind of convince and sell across the organization. Because generally, digital transformation involves multiple different groups, right? Now, when you think about end consumer, it's not a supply chain only problem, it's not a sales problem, it's not a marketing problem, right? All the different departments needs to come together. They need to be on the same page. Rather than looking at just the departmental objectives, they need to think about the end consumer in mind. There's going to be some trade-offs that needs to happen across different departments. In order to drive it, at a top level, you need to have a digital champion, right, who can actually convince all the departments to come together to the table and work together. That is one aspect. And second is for the employees themselves, obviously there will be some insecurities, right? In terms of what's going to happen with their jobs and all that. So a clear amount of transparency providing them in terms of how the reskilling will happen, or it's all better for them, right? That messaging also needs to happen, right? More from a top down. Now, when you look from a bottom up, some of the users of this, they need to be part of the decision making right from the beginning, right? That's going to be the key. So they need to feel that it is their own kind of transformation, they are driving it, right? In that way, there will be better ownership, right? When it comes to adoption itself, right? And then the third aspect is more in terms of the value articulation itself.
Right, absolutely, Sundar. And I sincerely wish, IIM Amritsar students, I'm hoping that some of you will actually become those chief digital officers of large organizations. All the best to you guys.
That was a great panel discussions with lots of insights. And I wish to thank all the panel members for sharing their thoughts on the topic of digital transformation in the era of disruption. In fact, any capital intensive industry which works on a wafer thin margins, especially like that of oil and gas, where a voluminous product is moved across value chain to reach the end customer 24/7, it's extremely important to have the finer insights on the data that gets generated at various nodes and stored in disparate systems. Such insights or analytics, I guess, will help the managers to drive efficiencies across value chain and also strengthen the margins. Accordingly, HPCL has collaborated with IIM Amritsar around last year, June, to come out with a program on data analytics. It's a unique program, unique in the sense that IIM Amritsar spent considerable time in understanding the business requirements and conceptualized the program and also the case studies which forms the important pedagogy. Had the data taken from the real life situations of the business unit. So this has helped us to understand the concepts very well, assimilate and implement in our day-to-day work. The topics that were covered were ranging from fundamentals of statistics to advanced artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques. Some other topics included like customer data analytics, your data-driven operational strategies, digital technologies, and the data privacy issues, etc. So these concepts personally has helped me a lot in terms of implementing certain digital initiatives, especially because I was just transferred to this new department of digital transformation in HPCL. Couple of initiatives I could formulate, like customer engagement platform with omni-channel presence and your video analytics at multiple locations, especially the retail outlets, which can improve the SOPs and eventually the customer service. I wish to thank all the faculty members of IIM Amritsar for conceptualizing such a wonderful program and conducting the same seamlessly. And I guess the ongoing two batches from HPCL will equally benefit from this program. Thank you very much.